Here's what's coming up on the Peak Financial Freedom Show with Jim and Dan.
If the core assets can be conservative, they can be more aggressive with a small amount of their assets. They might have $3 million of assets. They might want to be risky with $300,000. Okay, risk 10% of your assets because it really isn't going to hurt your plan and it will not do anything to devastate your financial security.
And that's what we do here at our firm. We're able to take those objectives and put together a plan to solve all those issues so that they don't have to worry about retirement.
Definitely.
That's key.
Definitely. Well, and it all comes down to a plan. And we put all the fees in writing for them, their direct fees and their hidden fees, and it showed they were going to be projected to pay 1.13%. So it was a decent fee savings. And over the next 20 years, they'd be projected to save over $400,000 of fees just because of realigning their assets in a way that gives them a higher probability that the money will last throughout retirement.
You're watching the Peak Financial Freedom Show with Jim and Dan, Sacramento's retirement television.
Hi, welcome to this week's show.
We have 30 minutes of great information designed just for you.
Don't go anywhere, get comfortable, because the show starts right now.
Hi, and welcome back to this week's Author's Corner. I'm here with Jim and Dan. They are TV personalities, radio talk show hosts, and Amazon.com best-selling authors. Guys, welcome to the program.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, Mark.
So I've got a bunch of great questions today, and this is all about what questions should you be asking your financial advisor? Because I think, Dan, there are a lot of people out there that they wish they knew what questions to ask because maybe they're not feeling 100% solid on the inside about the plan that they possibly have. So my first question is for you, and it is, you should ask, how much risk am I taking? And should I possibly bring this risk back a little bit?
Definitely. I think you even have to be even more pointed in the questions because if you ask the typical financial advisor to describe how much risk the client's taking, they might say you're conservative or moderate. And then when the market crashes 50% like it did in 2007, 8, and 9, or 2001 and 2, that person with a conservative or moderate portfolio might lose 40%. Well, to Jim and I, that is not conservative. That's aggressive when you can lose that much money. And unfortunately, so many people are in that position, they have no idea. So you need to really ask, how much could I lose if the market crashes again like it did in 2008? That's how we quantify risk. It's based on how much could you really lose if something bad happens. And if you get that in writing, it lets you know, okay, are you willing to accept that risk or not? And if you're not, it means you then need to dial down the amount of risk you have.
Yeah, and let me ask you this, Jim. Their IRAs come up, and when should I start taking money out? What is your philosophy on that?
Well, first of all, we have to look at the entire planning process, right? We have to look at other income sources, income guaranteed, is it not guaranteed? What's their budget? How much after-tax income do they need? And once we can look at all that information, we can determine then, should you start your RMDs early? In other words, your distributions out of your IRAs early, or should you defer longer? But typically, if you want to levelize the taxation, typically, and not in every situation, it's better to start those distributions a little bit early to neutralize the taxation over that period of time.
And Dan, income is the outcome. You really should be asking your advisor, how can I create steady paychecks for the balance of my natural life? And I think a lot of times this might be missed with advisors because they give you a pie chart and they say, here's your plan, but all you really have is a pretty pie chart.
Definitely. Well, Jim likes to say, you know, real estate is location, location, location. Retirement is about income, income, income. And I know to get to retirement, every single retiree or pre-retiree has had to be aggressive or moderate to try to grow the assets, to accumulate the assets, and they're stuck in that mode. But if you're in the accumulation mode, you're taking a lot of risk where you see volatility and losses, and at retirement, you can't take a lot of income off of a volatile asset. The more volatility you have, the less income you can take. The less volatility you have, the more income you take. So you want to build a plan that has less volatility. You want to go for asset preservation and income distribution at retirement, and it will put you in a position where you don't worry about your money so much.
So, final question. I got about a minute and a half left on this one, Jim. And I think a lot of people feel that I have to be really risky with my money to have a successful retirement. But can you have a successful retirement and be conservative or have low risk in your portfolio?
you should be in that position, right? You can be risky when you're 20, 30, and even in your 40s. But when you start to get close to retirement or in retirement, you have to understand what recovery time means. And that means if you lose 20 or 30 or 40% of your money, you have to have a much greater gain to get back to even. For example, if you lose 50% of your money, you actually need a 100% rate of return to make up that 50% loss. That's okay when you have $40 or $50,000, but when you have millions of dollars getting close to retirement or in retirement, that could be devastating.
Yeah, and you know, I'll do my last one with you. I've got about 30 seconds left, Dan. You have some of your clients that want to do a little managing of their own money. So how do you guide them through that process? So you keep their money maybe less risky, but if they want to play with some of it, what do you tell them?
Well, our 3-bucket strategy is going to be fairly conservative as far as the bulk of their assets, but a lot of clients do want to manage some of their own money, so we're not going to stop them. We'll help them, and we actually help them a lot because if the core assets can be conservative, they can be more aggressive with a small amount of their assets. They might have $3 million of assets. They might want to be risky with $300,000. Okay, risk 10% of your assets because it really isn't going to hurt your plan, and it will not do anything to devastate your financial security.
Dan, Jim, thanks so much. Hey, if you want more information about anything we spoke about here today, give us a call in the office at 916-452-7325 or go to our website. Tons of great resources there. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Jim Files, CEO of Peak Financial, your local resource for retirement and investment planning, acting as fiduciaries for advisory clients. We're offering you a free, worry-free retirement roadmap, including a 15-minute initial call, a face-to-face meeting, a second opinion about your money, a customized retirement income plan, our Amazon best-selling book. You can walk away and keep it all free, no pressure, no obligation, guaranteed. There's no risk and there's no cost. Call now.
You're watching the Peak Financial Freedom Show with Jim and Dan, Sacramento's retirement television.
On this week's segment of We Fix Your Money, you're going to meet Bob and Carol. They are retired, both age 65, and have saved $1.5 million. They're scared of making financial mistakes, like taking too much risk or running out of money in retirement. Now over to Dan and Jim to tell you how they help Bob and Carol.
Thanks, Mark. Great to be here to present this week's hypothetical case study. And we're going to look at someone that might be just like you. Bob and Carol, they're both retired, age 65, and they do have a decent amount of fixed income, $78,000 of pension and Social Security income coming in between them, which pays for all of their needs but not their wants. And they have about $1.6 million of assets that they're using about $20,000 a year of income off of it because that's the amount their broker told them to take, but it's just not enough to allow them to do the things they want to do. They've had a broker for 22 years. They think of the broker as a friend, but they've had a lot of volatility. They've suffered losses lately, so they want lower risk. They want an actual plan. They've never had a plan from their current broker of everything about their money in writing. They don't know how much income they're going to get, where it's going to come from, the taxes, the fees, the risk, everything. They want to use their assets for income because they know right now at age 65, they can spend the money a lot easier traveling than when they're 75 or 80. They want to travel a lot. They want to stop worrying about their money, things such as big losses or their money running out. They don't want to think about that anymore. They don't want to think about paying too much in taxes or not understanding their fees, and they want to leave money to the beneficiaries. And this is kind of a typical type of married couple that comes in and sees us with these same types of problems and issues, and we put together then customized plans that will address what their specific needs and wants are.
So we're going to give you a summary of this plan. So the current plan is where they're at now. The new plan is how we adjusted the portfolio to match their objectives. They had $20,000 in the bank. They had $1.58 million in investable assets. They had no money at all in their principal protected and lifetime income bucket. Total assets, $1.6 million. We restructured the entire portfolio. We increased the bank money to $100,000 because we felt they needed more liquidity, more safety with bank money. We reduced the growth because they wanted to reduce the risk and they wanted to increase income. So we brought the growth bucket down to $700,000. We actually implemented a fixed index annuity with an income rider for $800,000. That's the principal protected and lifetime income bucket. Same money, right? Under the current plan, they were going to propose to lose 48.4% of their money if we had a 50% market crash, which was significant. It was shocking to these clients, but this is typical with most clients, Dan. They were going to lose approximately $775,000 if the market crashed by 50%, and they would need a whopping 93.8% rate of return to make up a 48.4% loss, which is, to them, almost unachievable. Again, we restructured the plan. We reduced the risk from 48% losing down to losing maybe less than 10%. So the market goes down by 50. They're down about 9.6%. They're still going to have risk in the portfolio. They'd be down about $153,000 versus where they were at $774,000. And the key thing is the recovery gain was only 10.6% that we needed to generate in order to make up that minus 9.6% loss. A radical difference to the way the money is going to be managed in the future. We got them the income they needed, and we lowered the risk, Dan.
Well, the key here was we reloaded their risk by almost 90%, because before they needed a 93.8% gain to recover, we needed a 10.6% gain to recover. That's achievable in most people's minds. It's almost inconceivable to think of having to make back 93.8%. Well, then what we did was we did an income and a fee assessment for them. Very important, because their income was the most important thing to them. Well, they were generating $20,000 per year of income off their assets currently, and they weren't using any of their assets for guaranteed lifetime income, so they had no income coming in on a guaranteed basis other than their Social Security small pensions. The new plan now generates $60,000 of a year of income off their assets, with $56,000 being guaranteed for as long as they live. The majority of the income off the assets is going to be guaranteed for as long as they live. We're going to use $800,000 of their $1.6 million for that guaranteed income. So it's a great way to put them in a position where they don't have to worry about their money now as far as the income coming in for the rest of their life. And the fees they were paying before wasn't extremely high compared to most people when we do the analysis. They were at 2.4% as far as annual fees, the fees they saw, which are called direct fees, and the hidden fees, the indirect fees that they never see. We did a complete plan. We put all the fees in writing for them, their direct fees and their hidden fees, and it showed they were going to be projected to pay 1.13%. So it was a decent fee savings. And over the next 20 years, they'd be projected to save over $400,000 of fees just because of realigning their assets in a way that gives them a higher probability that the money will last throughout retirement time.
So now what we had to do, we had to figure out, okay, how do we maintain their budget and give them excess cash flow above their budget? So the gross monthly income in green was going to be $11,500 under the new restructured plan. They're going to have federal, they're going to have federal and state tax of about $1,700 a month. Net after-tax money was $9,811. They had a budget of $7,500 a month, which was all their spending. We were able to produce $2,300 of what we call excess cash flow above their budget, which was an additional $27,000 a year plus of more money than they needed. So what can you do with more money, Dan?
Well, they can save it, they can spend it, they can gift it to their friends, family, they can gift it to their charities, anything they want, they can invest the money. It just makes it easier for them now to feel comfortable that they have more than they need on a monthly basis. And once you show someone that, they're comfortable for themselves. They're like, thank goodness, I'm going to be okay. We're going to be okay. But then they immediately, almost every single client or couple starts worrying about their beneficiary. So we then do a legacy or a beneficiary calculation. And in this case, we're going to use very conservative numbers. We're going to assume the portfolio earns about 4% per year, and then they take out their income. We're going to assume the bank earns 1% per year. We're going to assume the real estate earns about 1.5% per year. And we're going to assume they love their plan and they spent all the income that's being generated. They didn't save any more in the future. Well, in this case, that means by age 90, they would have taken out income distributions and spent $1.7 million. Remember, they only had $1.6 million of assets. Now they're going to spend $1.6 million over that time period. And if they just earn 4% in their portfolio, 1% in the bank, 1.5% on the real estate, they're still going to leave about $3 million of assets by accident to the beneficiary. So they live a wonderful retirement. They have a great time. They spend all the income that was brought in, and they're still going to be able to do what they want, which is leave some money to the beneficiaries. So what was the summary for this?
Well, the summary was they wanted a full written plan. They never had one before. That's exactly what we did for them. We increased their income significantly with guarantees. We reduced their risk. We reduced their fees. We were able to show them how to manage taxes efficiently in retirement. They wanted to provide for their children and their grandkids. We did that exact thing for them. And guess what? They're going to worry a lot less about their money in retirement.
And you can probably see a lot of things in your own situation that match with Bob and Carol's, but it's probably not exactly. What we do is we create customized plans that will help you attain what your goals are. Mark, back to you.
Wow, what great results from a great plan. Your situation may not be exactly like Bob and Carol's. You may be single or still working, but you can see how planning can help you attain your goals and alleviate some of the worries about retirement. If this is something you'd like help with, give us a call right now in the office at 916-452-7325 or visit our website. Now stay tuned for a great complimentary offer.
Hi, I'm Dan Ahmed, President of Peak Financial, your local resource for retirement and investment planning, acting as fiduciaries for advisory clients. If you're a Northern California retiree or pre-retiree and worried about running out of money in retirement, and how to create dependable income to replace your paychecks so they last for as long as you live, we have a great free offer for you. Our typical clients have $1 million to $5 million of retirement assets, but we can help you if you saved at least $500,000. We're offering you a free, worry-free retirement roadmap that includes a 15-minute initial call, a face-to-face meeting, a second opinion about your money, a customized retirement income plan, our Amazon best-selling book. You can walk away and keep it all for free. No pressure, no obligation, guaranteed. It's time to stop worrying about your money. Don't wait. Call the phone number on the screen or go to our website to claim your free offer. You have nothing to lose, there's no pressure, there's no risk, and there's no cost. Call now.
You're watching the Peak Financial Freedom Show with Jim and Dan, Sacramento's retirement television.
Welcome back to the program. Now let's listen in on the Peak Financial Freedom Hour with Jim and Dan.
Well, Jim, it's great to be back this week's Peak Financial Radio Show, Freedom Hour, and we're going to talk about questions that we've heard in the past as far as clients wanting to know, people out there wanting to know, listeners, what they can do to hopefully enhance their financial security and basically not worry about their money so much. That's the whole goal of people, asking us questions. So how about, let's start with Mike. Mike says he's retiring this year and he hopes that the $1.8 million he has saved is enough. He doesn't understand if he does yet. I'm so freaked out right now because I don't want to lose any more money, and he evidently has lost money up to this point. I've had the same advisor for 20 years, and he says he lost 50% in 2000, and then again 50% in 2008 when we had the financial crisis. And he said it happened because he was told to hang in there, write it out, stay the course, don't worry. But he says, I don't want to lose 50% again. He says he can't handle losing 50% again. He knows he has a high probability of failing. So his simple question is, what should I do? He's retiring this year, has a bunch of money, doesn't want to lose money, and he has been in that risk before, so maybe he's in that same type of risk now.
Well, it sounds like he is, and he sounds like many, many people we deal with, right? Because everybody's concerned about risk, particularly when you get older because you don't have the recovery time. If you lose 40 or 50% of your money when you're 30 or 40, well, you have less money and you have a lot of time on your side. But if you get close to 60 or any retirement age, 65, 70, depending on where you're working and when you want to retire, you have to control that risk. You have to get that risk down because your income plan will never work. It'll just be a bunch of numbers.
Definitely, definitely. Well, if you look at him, if he lost 50% twice, he probably doesn't even realize he had to make back 100% twice just to recover his 50% losses, because if you have a 50% loss in the market, most people think you only need to make 50% to get back to even. But if you have a 50% loss, you got to make 100% gain just to get back up to even, and that doesn't take into consideration income distributions, paying taxes or fees, which means you probably have to earn a lot more. And if he's retiring, let's assume he's in his 60s, we don't know, but that means he's older, he doesn't have time on his side, and he has to do everything possible to protect that. Because if you have a very volatile asset class that goes up and down and can lose 50%, you can't take much income off of that type of portfolio. The way you increase the income from a portfolio is to then decrease the volatility, and you can then take a lot higher percentage. So I think Mike really just has to create a plan, reduce his risk, and then create that income so he doesn't have to worry about it going forward. How about, let's look at Steve and Sarah. They're retired, and our goals are simple. We want to create income from our assets that won't run out for as long as we both live, not suffer any more big losses, and leave whatever's left to our kids. Is there any type of investment that can help us? Well, what they're asking really seems to be what most people that come to see us want. They're retired or getting ready to retire, and they have no idea how to create dependable income that will last for as long as they live, and they want to make sure it lasts for both of them. None of them want to suffer big losses. You know, small losses are okay with, but big losses they don't want. And after they're gone and after they've had a wonderful retirement, people want to leave money to the kids, whatever's left. And it says, is there any type of investment? There really is an investment that does all those things, but a plan can, a written plan, everything in writing. So if we can set up a plan for Steve and Sarah that will give them everything in writing, they'll show their income for the rest of their lives, for the next 30 years, where each income source comes from, the risks they're going to have in writing, the fees, if we can show how much tax they're going to pay, if we can show in their hand each month what their net after-tax income is going to be, you can now achieve this, and then you can actually project forward and show how much can they possibly leave to the beneficiaries after they lived a wonderful retirement, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. But you know, they have the same concerns. Almost everybody we've talked to, they don't want to make a financial mistake at this point in their life. They want to make sure they have enough income that will last their joint lives. They want to make sure that they have enough money for inflation and possibly long-term care. And when they're all done, they want to leave money to the kids or the grandkids. But that's everybody's objectives, right? And that's what we do here at our firm. We're able to take those objectives and put together a plan to solve all those issues so that they don't have to worry about retirement. And that's the key.
Definitely. Well, and it all comes down to a plan. If you can get a plan in writing, if they had a plan in writing, they wouldn't be worrying the way they're worrying now. And that can be done. It takes a process, but an investment won't do it. So if you're just buying investments from someone, it's not going to work. You have to have a plan set up that will give you everything in writing so you can understand it. Well, this was a great show. I think the people listening, the listeners, they had a really, really good educational experience, and a lot of them probably have these same types of questions. So if anybody has questions out there, please just give us a call at the office. We'll be glad to answer them. Also, make sure to go to our website. There's some great information there, and we also can get contacted through the website.
Thanks, guys. That was some great information. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Jim Files, CEO Peak Financial, your local resource for retirement and investment planning, acting as fiduciaries for advisory clients. We're offering you a free, worry-free retirement roadmap, including a 15-minute initial call, a face-to-face meeting, a second opinion about your money, a customized retirement income plan, our Amazon best-selling book. You can walk away and keep it all free, no pressure, no obligation, guaranteed. There's no risk and there's no cost. Call now.
You're watching the Peak Financial Freedom Show with Jim and Dan, Sacramento's retirement television.
It seems like every red-blooded American is either afraid of income taxes, hates income taxes, or both, especially when they retire. Today on Peak University, Dan and Jim are going to discuss how to manage your income taxes.
Thanks, Mark. And I think everyone agrees with you that income taxes are a sore subject for every American. Whether you believe in everything we're spending the money on or not, it just all seems like we're paying too much in taxes, Jim. And I think it really freaks people out because they don't understand taxes. And then if you have to pay too much in taxes, it makes it even worse as a subject. So let's cover something that we know is a sore subject for you, but you have to understand as you're doing planning, and that is, how do the tax rates actually work? Because you might be making a lot of bad decisions assuming the tax rates work one way when they actually probably work opposite of what you were thinking. So let's study the 2023 federal married filing jointly tax schedules. And no one likes to look at this, that taxes can go from 10 to 37%, right? It's just scary to everyone. But we always think that the tax rate that we're showing is the total tax we're going to pay on every penny that we make, and it does not work that way. So let's look at someone that makes $200,000 of gross income in retirement. So that's a good retirement income. Most people then think, because this lines up with this 24% bracket, that you got to pay 24% federal tax on your $200,000. And it doesn't work that way, thank goodness, because each one of these numbers is a tax bracket that you pay that tax rate on that amount of income. So on the first 10% down here, 0 to $22,000 of taxable income, you do pay 10% tax. Then on only the dollars above $22,000 up to $89,000, do you pay 12% tax. Only on the dollars above $89,000 up to $190,000 do you pay 22% tax. Only on the dollars above $190,000 up to $364,000 do you pay that 24% tax, and so on. So you can see that these are what are called graduated or marginal tax rates. So you only pay higher tax rates on the upper level of the income. Well, this is gross income. Let's look at now how much you'd really pay tax on. If you had $200,000 of gross income in retirement, you're probably only going to be paying tax on about $167,000. So how would that be taxed? The first $22,000 down here is going to be taxed at 10%, just like the chart says. Then the next $67,450, which is the difference between $22,000 and $89,000, that's still only taxed at 12%. And then only $77,550, which is the difference between these two numbers and the 167, is taxed at 22%. And nothing is taxed at 24, 32, or all those higher tax rates. So we have zeros there. Your total tax then on $167,000 is $27,000, $355. And that means on $200,000, your total tax is $27,000, which means your average effective tax rate on $200,000 is only 13.68%. Why would we ever be afraid of that, other than no one has ever explained it to you this simply, Jim?
That's exactly right, Dan. People really don't understand taxes, and we make it simple, not only to graphically show you, but let's illustrate here how it would look like if you were in our office and you were looking at your taxable income. So when we do an income plan, we actually take that information and we put it onto a taxable type of display so you can understand it. So in green here would be the income in this example that this particular client was going to generate, different income sources, $138,000 a year, but only some of that is taxable. So for example, $105,900, after you take your standard deductions, you're going to pay tax of $20,267, which means you're in a 15% effective tax bracket.
For federal and state.
Federal
both.
and state.
10% federal, 5%
That's
state.
exactly right. Which means that your gross monthly income is $11,500. Your tax per month is $1,689. All we're doing here is taking the tax at $20,000 divided by 12 months. Your net after tax in green is $9,811. The budget in this example for these clients was $7,500, which included all their travel expenses, their entertainment, their mortgage, etc. And we're able to generate what is called net excess cash flow after their budget of $2,311, or about $26,000 extra per year in excess cash flow, Dan. So
well, this is what people want to see. You know, everyone watching right now, they want to know, here's my gross income. What do I get in my hands to spend at the end of the month, net after taxes, after my budget? How much excess do I have? Can I cover my budget first, which we can, the $7,500, and then do I still have extra money? And you have to build that extra money, that excess monthly income built into your budget to make sure that you don't have costs you can't cover, because we always have things like new tires, a new refrigerator, all those things that we have to pay for. You got to make sure that is coupled inside. And if you could see this, how would you feel? If you could see your own monthly tax net excess monthly income scenario in writing on one page, how would you feel? You'd probably worry a lot less about your money. When you look at some tax planning strategies out there right now, my background is I was 30 years as an enrolled agent with the Internal Revenue Service. I'm an accredited tax advisor. I'm also a certified financial planner. So we do a lot of tax planning that then dovetails into financial planning. And number one, how would you then like to reduce or eliminate the current taxation of your non-IRA portfolios by deferring 100% of the growth on all those funds and only pay tax when the money's needed? How about, would you like to create 5 years of income tax-free distributions from your non-IRA accounts? That'd be awesome, not having to pay tax while you're using the money. How about leveling your IRA distributions instead of deferring into forced higher tax rates because you're going to wait until mandatory distributions hit, which could cause you to pay more tax? How about leveraging your IRA accounts to pass on income tax-free money to beneficiaries? Instead of leaving taxable IRA money, how about income tax-free money to beneficiaries, Jim? Yeah,
you know, Dan, this is awesome information. It may be foreign to the consumer at times, but when you're sitting down and doing proper planning, you have to understand how this is going to impact your income, because in order to get through retirement without a lot of stress and to make sure your retirement's going to work, this tax information becomes very, very important in considering how to put together a proper plan.
Definitely. Hopefully that helps alleviate some of your fears about taxes. Back to you, Mark.
Thanks, guys. It seems like there are some great options for people to really take control of their tax bill. If this is something you need help with, give us a call in the office right now at 916-452-7325 or go to our website. And don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
You're watching the Peak Financial Freedom Show with Jim and Dan, Sacramento's retirement television.
Thanks for watching this week's show.
And if you want more information about anything we talked about here today, give us a call in the office or go to our website.
And remember, at Peak Financial Freedom Group, we fix your money.
The preceding program is sponsored by Peak Financial Freedom Group.